Hello, everybody. Welcome to another amazing special broadcast here on GIC TV. Today, we are going to be speaking with Miriam Delicado, but not Miriam Delicado as you've always known her. Not Miriam Delicado that is saying, the voice of humanity and whatnot. Today, we're going to be talking about Miriam Delicado and how our brain works and what she's learned, what she's been through, what her experiences are. Everything from her car accident to what the tall blondes have taught her. So many different topics that perhaps you may have never heard her speak of. The brain seems to be a theme for us this month, and we're going to wrap it up with today's very special 2-hour broadcast. Miriam has agreed to stay with us for 2 hours. We will be taking a break at the top of the hour, and then we'll be returning very quickly. But let's go ahead and let's welcome Miriam Delicado to our broadcast today. Let me just get her centered in here momentarily. Give me a moment. And hello, Miriam. How are you?
I'm pretty good, Bernard. I've actually been really excited about today's program because I think that a lot of genres that are out in the public, when we talk about spiritualism, when we talk about religion, belief, how we cope, how we function every day, really stems from, quote, the brain. Mm-hmm. And it is an integral part of understanding that is needed in order to further ourselves. So further ourselves in any way that we're talking about, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, astrally, going out into the other worlds. So the brain is an extremely important part of our stepping stones to enlightenment, to understanding who we are, and what areas of our own personal lives that we need to work on. Because I know that we all have those areas of our lives that we struggle with, me included. So welcome to everyone that's here on the program today. And thank you for being here. Bernard Alvarez from GIC, Global Illumination Council, would like to welcome you as well. And he has a wonderful set of programs that are being put together. And so I just want to take a moment, Bernard, to thank you for your time in dedicating to allowing this free programming to take place. So back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miriam. I appreciate that. As we're speaking about the brain, and you brought up some very important points there, because I find that many of us, when we're involved, let's say, in activism, we're not focusing on the brain. We're focusing on our passion. We're focusing on our outrage. We're focusing on our dedication for change, which is all a needed part in this global movement that we're all a part of. All the different pieces fit into the one big movement. And then we're talking about the spiritual aspect, where many of us are mostly focusing on the experience, on what the meditation makes us feel. So here we have the spiritual of feeling, and the passion and the emotion of activism, and somehow we forget about our brains. We forget how to take care of them. We forget how to work them out. And not to go into too much detail, but I really am a firm believer of doing brain exercises. I love to do a crossword. I'll do a crossword 3 or 4 times a week just to know that my brain is working. And of course, being a web person and doing all the coding is very brainy. But, we want to keep our brain working. And it's a very integral organ in our body that is a part of our experience here as a whole, no matter whether you're an activist or a spiritual person.
Well, it's a proven fact, actually, in science that if we do not use our brains, especially as we get older, that what happens is we lose that the ability for our brains to function properly. And so there's a whole lot of topics that we wanted to go through today. it's difficult to start the conversation because it's so interconnected and it's so detailed. So to get this ball rolling, I think an overview is where we need to start today.
Very good.
Okay, so what happens is, what happened for me personally is that back in 1988, I had a very deeply moving spiritual experience with tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed beings that literally changed my life. And one of the most fascinating aspects of that encounter was the information that they shared with me about the brain and how important this aspect of our physical bodies was. And we're talking about an individual, myself, who had no education, a grade 7 completed education. That was it. And due to some very difficult early childhood situations in my life, I didn't end up finishing school, which means that I didn't really even have the opportunity to get into the sciences of how things work, the physics, the physical body, what the brain does. You know, you learn a little bit of that as you get older in school. I never had that opportunity. And they explained to me, these beings explained to me that the brain connected to every aspect of our perception. So what that means is that we are born with the synapses, they call it, I guess. The synapses, what fires the brain, okay? Now, the beings said that in the very center of our brain, there's one very important point. And this point can be utilized by anyone at any point in time, whether they are in a meditation, whether they are trying to exercise their brain, whether they are trying to expand their understanding of something. This point in the center of the brain has a light. It's a physical light. And, you know, has science proven this? I don't know. But I know that in the very center of the brain is a point that is so small that I don't think that we're registering it. And like registering it in science, that is. So they haven't gotten there yet, but it's there because that's what powers the brain. Now, people who are spiritual, who follow these spiritual paths in the alternative media, in the spiritual understanding of life itself, know that there's many things that are not scientifically proven yet. And as we progress in our evolution, they are being proven. So this is one of those aspects. I'm going to talk about this for a little bit because it is a connection to everything else that we're going to be talking about. In the center of the brain is a light, and in that light, imagine it like a tree, okay, where you have the path on the trunk of the tree going up, and then all the branches reach out to all over the brain, or sorry, all over the branches, the leaves reach out, all of that. The brain is like that. We have the brain stem at the back that feeds into the body and feeds all of the information to your body, and gives you your senses, your understanding, your pain if you have it, which is important for a later conversation. It gives you your perception of things. It gives you everything through the brain stem, from the brain to the brain stem. And am I still okay? Okay. Yeah, I should probably do that too, actually. Just let me do that too. Okay.
I was switching my Skype to do not disturb everyone. Sorry about that.
So what happens is we have this specific point in our brain, and it feeds the energy from everything else. Now, I'm not going to talk about that about what this energy is and where it comes from, because then you're trying to get me to explain God, and I can't do that. But what we know is that everything stems from there. Now, when you are having a conversation with something, certain pathways within the brain are utilized that are created from our childhood. From the moment we're born until the moment we die, we are either creating pathways or pathways are dying because we're not using them. The reason for meditation, mantras, visualization, positive thinking, positive speaking, has to do with what brainwave pattern you are imprinting onto your brain. This is what this is all about. So we start by understanding that the brain itself is a machine that is constantly trying to create new pathways, if that's what you're trying to do, or if you're not using it, it's killing them. That's the first basic understanding that people must have to be able to use your brain to be able to create, manifest, repair your body, all of those different things. So I'll pass it back to you for a moment, Bernard.
Actually, we already have our first question, and actually it's the same question that I would have had while you were speaking. When you were talking about that point of light in the center of our brain, is there any correlation to this point of light to what we call the pineal gland? But I know the pineal gland is not in the center. However, I'm wondering if there is any connection to that. I know the pineal gland is very important, but is that point of light that they were telling you about actually the pineal gland?
Well, the pineal gland has a function, from what I understand. Is it the same? Is it what I'm talking about? No.
Okay.
Because this goes even deeper into the brain itself than the pineal gland itself. The pineal gland has a very specific function of transferring information. It's like a transfer point.
Yeah.
It's what carries the information here, there, and everywhere. It's the processing center of the brain. The processing center of the brain, and within that is this point of light. Is it within the pineal gland? I'm not sure. I would have to sit down and meditate to ask them that specific question. But the pineal gland, from what I've been physically told by people, mm-hmm. and where it is and everything, I understand it to be what these beings talk to me about as being the processing center of the brain itself. Okay, there's a tiny light, and from that comes all of the energy to be able to send those electrical charges through your brain in order for it to transfer information. But before it can transfer, it needs to figure out where it's going to go, what path. The pineal gland plays a very important role in that. So, for example, imagine, let's say a balloon, okay? A balloon that never is full of water, and it's never going to be dry. Let's state that. Okay. And we take a needle and we poke it into the balloon, and water starts to come out. Imagine the pineal gland as the balloon, and the needle as the where you poke it is one of the pathways that you've created. Okay. Now, what happens is that balloon has the potential to just be flowing water all the way out in every direction if it has an endless supply of water, right? Whoosh. So that's the blood in our brain. What we're doing is we're trying to access the center of that brain, okay, to be able to push information out to places that have not necessarily had a pathway before. But it's really easy to do. With some practice, it is possible to create new brainwave patterns. You just have to know what to do, and you have to have commitment to it, and you need to have this basic understanding of how this works. So maybe I don't know if that description is a good one. I might think of
No,
another.
absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Now, Miriam, we spoke a little bit prior to today's broadcast, and we had both agreed that one of the most important things that we need to deal with when our brain is concerned is is fear the one main obstacle that is blocking us from our full potential, and not only our full potential. Uh, God, geez, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, I can't think of the word, but let's just say, abstractly speaking, in an abstract fashion, our full potential and abstract, but the full potential of utilizing all the functions of the brain. How does fear play into a role, that role in this?
Okay. Um, when we are born, we have this clean slate almost. Almost. Some of the basic fundamental pathways of the brain itself are already created. Those are the things that allow us to chew and move and, move your arm, move your body, create thoughts, have a processing center of, being able to analyze information. All of these basics, it's like a template that everyone comes with for the most part. Um, when those templates are messed or have errors in them is when people have become born with, Down syndrome, for example, or they have a problem with a leg that doesn't work or function properly, or maybe their eyes are not good. And those templates within the brain, that's part of the problem. Not just a physical aspect, but it's partly at times can be tied into the brain. When we're born with this basic template that each one of us has, we then turn it into information. And it's a proven fact scientifically that the first two years to 4 years of your life are the imprint, the template that you will move through the rest of your life with. So the first few years of life are extremely important for childhood development because it will be a determining factor as to how you deal with stress, how you deal with new situations, whether or not you are filled with laughter and joy, whether your emotional aspects are being, suppressed by someone, your self-value is put into that first few years of life. This programming is very, very, very powerful because it determines it is the template upon which everything else is built. This is the fear factor that we have. You are nothing more than a human being. You are nothing more than a child. You are nothing more than anything. You can't create. You're not being taught how to use your mind. You're not being told that you are an infinite, powerful being. And so all of us today are working through these aspects of ourselves that were imprinted on us as children because our society, our culture, our way of life is not pursuing that aspect of the spiritual world in a way that would produce lack of fear and removing fear from us. Fear comes from what we call the unknown. Fear comes from, that's one of the primary things fear is the unknown. Well, fear is already imprinted onto our brain to not go there. And it's not really fear, it's that our pathways haven't been opened up to that. So we're actually saying the seeking of knowledge is not sought because we don't know what's there. And we have used the word, and this is very important because I was asked this several times, the word fear has been given that aspect. Then we are given a description of what fear is. Fear of the unknown. When we say that, we create a pathway in the brain right now, you and I do, by sharing this, for people to not want to go there. Mm-hmm. To cut off the desire, the passion, the wanting to go into the unknown. So this goes into something that I was asked a few times about language. And if language also causes us to not use our brain and to shut it off. And yes, I would say the answer to that is absolutely yes.
Yeah.
That is very clear because, for example, when I was with these tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed beings, they talked to me about sound. They talked to me about how sound had the ability to turn the brain on or turn the brain off. Mm-hmm. So when we say, for example, something that almost everyone knows is Om. Om. And you hear that? Om. And I'd like everyone to do that for a moment, to do it with me. Mm-hmm. And notice what happens in your head as you're doing that. So again, one more time with everyone else out there and doing it together, and nice and not loud, but loud enough so that you're comfortable. Okay, a few things happened there. You have just activated pathways in the brain, and you're sending blood out from that center and from that light to connect in with areas in your brain that you don't normally use. And I'm sure that what you would feel is something, it's almost like a rattling in your mind, in your head. Yeah. Because language, mantras, and this is why indigenous languages and ancient cultural languages are so important. Because the ancient cultural languages carry tones and messages for the brain itself to be able to have the link between our physical bodies here and the spiritual, which is, outside of ourselves, or what we perceive to be outside of ourselves. So we're talking about moving through what has been coined as fear, which let's change the language and call it a desire for learning more of the unknown. Mm-hmm. And we need to reawaken that aspect and understand that we're going to work towards getting that light moving, to get the blood flowing into our brains, to get the connection between the center of the brain, the pineal gland, for example. I mean, if you want to concentrate on the pineal gland, go ahead. All you need to do is focus on the center of your brain in any way that you see fit for yourself, and imagine little electrical light pathways going from the center of your brain and reaching out in all directions. Or you can imagine blood flow going there. But something that's really important that you need to do also in this is to take that message and that visualization and send it from the center of your brain down through your spine as well. Oh. So that, oh yes, this is an aspect that people don't get. It's like, okay, you want to exercise your brain, go ahead, but you have to get it to connect. And so again, this comes back to what is it that we do during meditation? What are we trying to do? If we can't quiet the brain, the chatter within the brain, we don't have good meditations. See what I mean? Yeah, it's all connecting in. So that's where we're moving. Should I just keep?
No, actually, you brought up something that has awakened me and reminded me about something. Last time we got together and we were talking about the inner dialogue and how to create a more positive conversation in our minds. This leads right into what we were talking about when we brought up neuroplasticity. Mm-hmm. And someone, and I'm going to share this with everyone if it's okay with you, Miriam, someone saw our video and they sent me a poem. And it's funny because this particular poem I read in the book, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche. And ever so quickly, just it's very short, and I think everyone will really enjoy this. I'm not sure who wrote it. Oh, by Portia Nelson. Anyway, it's in that book also, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in this same place. But it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit, but my eyes are now open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. The next day, I walk down another street. And that's by Portia Nelson. Thank you, Cindy, for sending that, by the way.
That's what we do with our brains.
Yep.
Very well said.
Beautifully.
It's exactly what we do with our brains. It's about, you know, I mean, I said to Bernard just before we started the program, I have had a really rough couple of days. Yes, very rough couple of days personally. And
you mean you're human?
Yes. I have been challenged with a number of different things. And these challenges are not only my physical world around me, but also by my my patterning that I have. And I'm very aware of it. Doesn't mean that it's easy to stop falling into that sidewalk hole. It means that we have to be aware of it. Once we become aware of it, is we already begin to start to change the patterning. And, you know, I personally have been doing this my whole life, trying to change some of the patterning that I've had. And it's really hard. It's not impossible, though. So going into that patterning and how we go about changing that, so we've determined, I'm going to keep going back to the very beginning so that we can keep putting pieces and layers on top of this. There's a light in the center of the brain. And when we meditate, when we think, when we imagine on our way to sleep, it doesn't matter. You can do it as you're walking down this. I can do it right now. I can do it right now. I can just stop and see this little point of light and take a breath, because that's my process. You don't have to take a breath, and just let it out and imagine blood flow all the way through the brain, rays of light going out in all directions, and then going down into my spine and into my brainstem, and then communicating with the rest of my body. When you're in a meditation, you can also use that and put it down into the other center of light that we have, which is, you know, in the center here. I'm just going to move my camera down a bit, so it's right about here. There's another one here. There's two lights that keep us, you know, keep us going here, and then at the top of our heads. So you can connect in with both of those, and then continue those rays of light to go all the way up, out into the universe, and the other one down into the earth. And then what happens is these two centers of light, which are which make us up as human beings, begin to spiral, and then they go up and down, and you can push them out. This is also can be used as a protection. Sorry, my allergies are acting up.
Oh, yeah, me too today.
So we can use this as a form of light protection as well when you're doing a meditation. Now, after you have an understanding that of this basic understanding of what the divine brain is. The reason that I called it the divine brain is because it allows us to do certain things. Now, there was a nice, I'm just going to go online here just to look at something, because we made some notes here. So this is where the sounds come in, the language comes in, using mantras that you find you connect with. such as Om Mani Padme Hum,
Mm-hmm.
from the Buddhists, is a really good one because most people can work with that. Even if you're only doing the Om, it will activate certain centers within the brain. I'm going to share something here that a couple of things today that might surprise some people.
Oh, thank you.
Just let me just take a look here at our notes. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to share is a little story about something that really has been, something on my mind for a while. So I'll share a little personal note here. The understanding of this activation through the sound and through the mantras and through the blood flow and through the light. These things can be corrupted. I'm getting feedback. These things can be corrupted by the food that you're eating, by drinking alcohol, by smoking cigarettes, by polluting the body, basically, by having a lot of chemicals go into the body. It can shut down the brain. So by taking care of your physical body and being careful what you put into your body and what you're thinking and everything, it can reactivate the brain. Now, as far as the tones are concerned, the ancient languages, this was talked to me, the tall blonde beings talked to me about this as well and said, and told me specifically that the ancient languages of this planet had certain tones in it, in the language itself, that kept the brain activated. And that the mantras that were given to the different groups of people all over the planet, whether they are from ancient Egypt, or whether they are Hopi, or whether they are the Aborigine, or whether they are the Pueblo Indian, or it doesn't matter. All of these ancient cultures, the Buddhists, all of these people have the mantras with the sound incorporated into it to activate or deactivate the brain. So you have to be careful of that too. So within these ancient languages, I'm just going to say this quickly, and I do not want to stay on this, is that when the indigenous people of the planet, the red-skinned race, let's call them, okay, when they were all initially colonized, they were told to stop speaking their language, and they were punished if they spoke their language. This has had a detrimental effect on the planet itself because of the connection with the spiritual, and it's had a detrimental effect on the people around the planet as well because of this. These ancient languages are trying to be held and restored, in fact, and actually shared with the public. But the public needs to understand that these ancient languages and these tones are very powerful, and what you can do with them can either be positive or negative. It can be building something or it can be destroying something. A couple of years ago, someone started to talk to me about this and about the brain and how it works and how to activate it and what we needed to do and all these things. And they were talking about and they were speaking to me as if I was an idiot. I mean, they spoke to me as if I was a completely like an idiot. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was so condescending. And I thought to myself, wow, you're using this technique to open up your mind. You're obviously not working on it properly, because if they were, they would have the pathways open to all of spirit and not just part of spirit. So we need to have some caution when we use the different mantras and repetitive sounds or tones that we use. And this is why, for me, the tall blondes told me, never follow any one religion, person, or doctrine.
Of course.
Only follow yourself. Because this person, you standing beside me, you have different attributes that are positive that I don't have. So why would I need the same mantra as you? I don't. Mm-hmm. So this is where we need to understand that we can be building pathways or we can be destroying them or just giving ourselves more and more. You need to listen to yourself.
Yeah.
You need to listen to what feels right for you. This is why people become involved in different religions or beliefs, because what resonates for them is also within the brain itself. So the language and the mantras are really important as far as reactivating the brain and getting the connection between the body, mind, spirit, and soul. So we're going to, because like I said, recently someone, people ask me this all the time. And for example, when we do look at ancient culture and religion, there's a lot of song that's involved. They do dances. They do ceremonies with different phrases that need to be repeated. And there's purpose in that because there's information in it. This is what causes the brain to either become more full of what they call light or darkness. When we're talking about this all the time, is this starting to make a bigger picture? We're always talking about fill yourself with light. Fill yourself with light. It's not filling your body with light. It's filling that point within your brain with light and then allowing that light to travel so that it can then come out. Yeah. You see? If we don't have that basic understanding that the brain is a primary function in order for us to be able to reach enlightenment, then we can't go anywhere to get to that point. Absolutely. So we've covered a little bit about the language, a little bit about fear, a little bit about the basics of the brain itself. So where should we move forward from here?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say that everything that you're talking about as far as the brain, I resonate with everything we're talking about. One of the things that I did on my own spiritual path, and it's funny how you said that, filling yourself with light, brought up this, this class that I teach when I'm teaching my students, how important it is that what sounds you hear, what visions you see, what you smell, what you taste, what you feel, is all very much a part of that, and how it's very important to be vigilant, especially at the very beginning. There's that old Buddhist story, when the tree is small, you have to put a fence around it so the sheep don't eat it, but when the tree grows, it can provide shade for many. And I'm very vigilant, and we talk about it all the time with television, turning off the TV, don't listen to, hateful music or, the tones. You can tell the different vibrations in some of the, and it's not even just modern music, it's even back to, some of the classical music, that some tones are either of light or they make you cringe and they make your nervous system get tight.
Yes.
Speaking of sound, we do have a question, and you can go on to what I just said, but we do have a question from Sean, and I've been looking at it, and I'm interested in it because I love the didgeridoo. Does the didgeridoo activate the brain?
Well, I mean, I don't think that I can answer that with any, I don't think that I'm
with any authority, right.
With any authority, because I'm not an Aborigine person, and I don't speak on behalf of anyone. What I will say is, wow, it's interesting, isn't it? That all of these cultures, for example, around the world, have very specific musical instruments that they associate with their ceremonies themselves. Yeah. So I think the question is almost answered for us in my personal understanding of how this all works. Yes, it has the ability to create, to manifest, to destroy, and these are all tools. Just like you said so clearly with the music, we can feel it within our bodies and within our senses, whether something is activating something to a positive light or a dark light. So, I personally love the didgeridoo. It's one of my favorite instruments. I have a few of them that are out there, and the didgeridoo is absolutely one of them that for some reason, I just love. Yeah. Now, actually, let me take this somewhere else that I was thinking about this morning that we didn't put on the list, Bernard. Very interesting. Okay. Let's put it this way. All right, give me just a second here. This is a very important part to the divine brain and what it is. Okay? All right. When I am speaking to you right now, I am speaking to everyone and you're hearing me, right? If you were standing here and we were in front of each other, I speak and a tone comes out of my my voice, out of my mouth, and it goes to your ears and you hear it. But let me ask, it's a rhetorical question. I want everyone to think about it. How do you hear that? How does what I say actually travel through the air? How does that happen? Do you see it? Can I show it to you? Is it in my hands? There's nothing there. But I know that the person that's standing in front of me hears me. How does it go from here to here? How does it make that jump? What happens? Does anyone know that? Probably in science, there's a very scientific, way of explaining it. And I'm sure that, we can do that until we're, 100 years old.
I was going to say my first answer, of course, is the scientific one. But it's more than one thing. It's not only, and this does open up a big philosophical question. It's not only the sound waves or the vibration. It's also the fact that you had to learn the language in order to understand it. So it's vibration hitting the eardrum, and then it's the brain interpreting it. So we have multiple things going on there.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing. When I think that the point that where I'm moving towards here is that it is a proven scientific. We've proven scientifically that, as you said, okay, there's sound currents, sound waves that go across and they go through the air. I still, as a layperson would be like, what? How does that work? Okay, but let me just take you through this. When we're talking about the brain, we're talking about the center of the brain with the light, and we send out a message, and it is a light that is physically and scientifically proven to be like an electrical charge through the brain. Okay? It goes through the brain. And then what happens to it? Does it get to the end and it dies? No. Then it gets traveled all the way through the body, right? So if I go and I stub my toe, the brain picks up that there's a message that went from your toe, up your leg, through your spinal cord, up to your brain. This is gonna get so big. Goes to your brain. Your brain then has to interpret. It goes to the center, it goes to the processing center, and it sends a message out. Pain. You just hit it. That's what happened. So you get an explanation. You get a message that's returned to the center of where you stubbed your toe to tell you, you just stubbed your toe. What are you doing? Be careful, man.
Idiot.
Don't do that again. Be careful. You have the pain center go there because you need to protect yourself. And the brain is always there to protect you. Okay. When that happens, what we need to understand spiritually for the divine brain and the understanding of where we're going with all of this is that, do you think, it's a rhetorical question again, do you think that once it gets to that toe that energy just stops and it's dead and it's gone? No. There is still that pathway of energy that's still being carried out into the world. This is what our thoughts do. My thoughts are not always positive. If you would have seen me the last 3 days, you would know that my thoughts are not always positive. I've had a very rough 3 days. 4 days. It's been very, very challenging for me. But I'm trying to keep my thoughts positive. I'm trying to keep myself together. I'm trying to get my brain to not go into this repetitive darkness that we have a tendency as human beings to do. Mm-hmm. And why is this important? So, we have physical aspects, we have spiritual aspects, we have emotional aspects, all of these things. When we talk about, quote, the thought, what you think, you create. Now, I'm going to share a very astounding story, okay? And I have a few of them, but I will share one here today.
Okay.
When we talk about our thoughts from the divine brain center, it's extreme power that we have available to us. Are we all divine beings? Yes. Have we been told that we are all divine beings? Yes. Are we divine beings? Are we acting? Are we self-created divine? No, we're not. We're not. Do we all have this ability? Absolutely. Does everybody have this ability? Absolutely. Is it possible? I don't think so for everyone to have this all of a sudden. It's not going to happen because it's about the development from birth through the beginning years and then the continuation of being able to structure the brain for us to become those divine beings. When people go into monasteries or they go into ashrams or they go into ceremonies, they go into a space to be able to cleanse the mind. Key here, mind. And reprogram. All right. When we talk about using the center of the brain to send out messages, one of the most important things that we need to remember is that that message doesn't stop inside your body. It doesn't stop inside your body. It moves out into this physical world and also into the spiritual world. So when we want to create things like healing ourselves and manifesting things in our lives and removing things from our lives, this is one of the ways we can do it. Mm-hmm. So the divine brain is used to push messages out into this physical world of what we want. And please, I'd like to make a very clear statement that if you have hardship in your life, it does not mean that you manifested it because of this. If you had something negative happen to you, it does not mean that you manifested it. Do not start with that negative, allowing for other people to give you that negativity either. They are simply experiences. Do not be hard on yourself to say, I manifest this, I did this, I did that. I've had a terrible few days. Did I manifest that out of my own self? Well, you know, people can point fingers all they want. The fact is that we're human. We're here to have experiences. We're here to have life. So please do not be hard on yourself. It's so important to not do that. We have to love each other. We have to support each other. The brain itself, sorry, I've got such a big story that I want to kind of bring into one point, Bernard.
Okay.
So I hope because I'm kind of monopolizing here.
Go. We got 10 more minutes before break, so keep going.
Okay. So, a couple of years ago, I've done this many times in my life for different things. I have, and it's been extremely powerful, to say the least. Extremely powerful. Let's say that you think about someone and you haven't thought about them in years and years and years. Pay attention to that thought. What are you thinking about them? Where are they? Are they okay? Is everything all right about them? You know, whatever that is. Those are brain messages that come back in from exterior to you. The question is, are you listening? That's what's out here coming into the divine brain. We need to pay attention when a thought comes from out of nowhere. Pay attention to that. That's the divine brain speaking to you and allowing you. Someone else just communicated with your divine brain. Does that make sense, Bernard?
Oh, absolutely. I call it
Okay.
I call it the divine. Actually, I call it the divine pager.
The
We
divine
page
page.
each other. Yeah.
That's nice. It's like the synchronicities that people have that they talk about all the time. That's funny. So what happened is I sat down a few years ago, and on my floor, Bernard is very aware of this, all the details of this story. I needed to communicate with someone, and there is no possible way that I could have done this. I didn't, you know, so I sat down in my living room a few years ago, and I went into a very, very deep meditation. And what I did was I sat down in this meditation and I connected in with the light in my brain, the light in my center. I was sending the energy deep into the earth, back out into the universe, and sharing that with everything that exists in all dimensions. Mm-hmm. Once I did that, I began to think right from the very center of my brain about me sort of almost shrinking down to be tiny, like a molecule. And then I would travel down through myself into the earth, and I saw a path, like the brain actually, with a physical tube of light that traveled down through the earth to another country. And I did this through the earth, through the air, up into the universe, through the universe, and back down to the earth. So at all 3 points correlated to one space. And I imagined that I traveled across to the other side of the world and stood up in a hut with people that I've never met before in my life, who there is no way that they would even know who I am because they live in the bush. And I spoke to them and said, here is where I am. I'm in North America. Find me. And within days of me having that meditation, the people in Africa, some people in Africa were called to their elders and told, we know that this person is in North America. And then I didn't find this out until quite a bit later. And then after that, shortly after that, I knew that I was going to be in a specific place and time. And I went and I did the same thing. I connected in with the divine brain. I saw my spark of light in the center of my brain. I began by opening up the circuits and spreading the blood and the brain pathways of light all the way out into the entire brain and lighting the brain up. Then I sent the message down my spinal cord into my center here. Then I sent it both directions, pushed it out, traveled through the earth, the air, and the universe, and went back to these elders and said, I'm going to be here at this pace and this time, send someone. And in fact, they did send someone. Yep. Those elders called someone and said, you need to go to North America immediately, which is what I said to these elders. You need to send someone immediately. And this individual had 10 hours notice to get on a plane, come to North America, and within, I think it was 2 days, he was standing in front of me. So when we talk about the divine brain, this is what I'm really talking about. This is the divine brain. The divine brain does not stop and does not have limitations. It is something that we have to understand in our spiritual development to be able to access the other worlds, to be able to communicate with each other, to be able to understand who and what we are, and then be able to tap into this energetic, this energy in order to heal our physical bodies, our spiritual, mental, emotional selves. And that's going to be in the next hour. We're going to talk about that.
That's absolutely wonderful. Go ahead.
So the point of this story and me sharing this is to say that the energy of the divine brain does not stop within your brain. It does not stop within your body, and it doesn't even stop within this physical realm that we think that we live in. The divine brain and what we're talking about in the connection of it, if you can tap into this, you can tap into just about anything that is out there. That's what we're talking about here today. This is what the divine brain is. And this is what we all, including myself, including the Dalai Lama, including the highest spiritual teachers within indigenous communities are tapping into, is the divine brain. So,
and it's universal.
And it's universal. It is not held in captivity by any one group on the planet. It is not held in captivity by any one person on the planet. It is held within the divine space of each and every one of us. It's time for us to activate our brains.
Yeah.
It's time for us to activate and to become who we really are.
Right on. And with that, let's go ahead and take our top of the hour break here. We're going to take a short 4-minute break and let Miriam and myself regroup. And we're going to come back for another hour and continue this very, very intriguing conversation. I'm looking forward to the next half of this program with Miriam and what we're going to be talking about. It's getting real now, guys, and I really hope you'll stick around. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.